Bon matin et bienvenue à notre réunion du Conseil des Comtés unis de Prescott-Russell en date du 24 août 2023. Membres du Conseil, M. Parisien, chef de département, good morning, Head Department, Mr. Parisien, Council members, les gens dans la salle, bienvenue, bonjour. Les gens qui nous écoutent sur YouTube, those who are watching us on YouTube, good morning. And let's start this Council meeting. Ouverture de la réunion. À 9h03, vision, M. Kirby, s'il vous plaît. Merci, M. Kirby. Item number 3, item number 3, adoption of the agenda. I'll need a mover and a seconder, unless you want to change the order of the agenda. Moved by Mme Lajoie, seconded by M. Laviolette. Question, discussion. Sans faveur? Contre? Adopté. Déclaration d'intérêt pécuniaire. Seeing none. Item number 5, pétition, délégation et présentation. 5.1, Rhonda Bradley, résidence de la municipalité de Russell, améliorer la communication et l'engagement des Comtés unis de Prescott-Russell. Madame Bradley est présente? En ligne? Ah, bien, en ligne. Bonjour, Madame Bradley. Good morning. You have the floor. Are you there, Madame Bradley? Can you hear us? Elle ne nous entend pas. Can you put your microphone on, please?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I'm a little distracted by the communications. It is on?
It is on. Go ahead.
It is on?
Yes, I am.
It is on. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. So my name is thank you. So my name is Rhonda Bradley. I am a resident of the Township of Russell since 2016. And I want to acknowledge that I am speaking to you from what is known as the South Nation River watershed, and I pay respect to the Algonquin people who are the traditional guardians of this land. The reason why I'm here today is that in May of this year, myself and a group of my neighbors were surprised to learn of a land use change within the updated official plan. And I want to acknowledge that indeed all of the requirements as laid out by the provincial planning policy had been met. However, we do not feel that we were meaningfully engaged.
You have 10 minutes to do your presentation, Madam Bradley. You know that, eh?
Yes, I'm having trouble because I'm getting feedback and it's hard to hear myself.
Can you maybe disconnect and reconnect, see how that will go?
Everything is being repeated 3 times. On my end and on yours.
Mr. Warden, can I can I recommend that we just stop this delegation, move with the other one, and see if we can fix whatever's not working?
Madam Bradley, we'll move ahead. We'll postpone your presentation and try and correct the communications in regards to your situation and ours. So if you don't mind, we'll move on to the next delegation and come back to yours. Let's move on to item number 5.2, and we'll come back to 5.1 to Madame Bradley. 5.2, le Conseil des arts Prescott-Russell, Art and Council, also known under CAPRAC, demande de financement 2024. Mesdames, le podium est à vous.
Bonjour. Bon matin, merci. Je m'appelle Margot Malbeuf. Je suis ici avec Tina et Lynn, qui sont membres de notre conseil d'administration. I'll just get into it, okay? Can we change the slide, please? Merci. Le Conseil des arts Prescott-Russell est un organisme bilingue à but non lucratif qui dessert la région des comtés unis de Prescott et Russell. Incorporé en 2014, nous sommes nés de la demande distincte de la communauté pour une programmation artistique et culturelle dans la région. Notre mission consiste à informer la collectivité des diverses manifestations culturelles, artistiques et patrimoniales de la région, rassembler les acteurs culturels, artistiques et patrimoniaux, accompagner la réalisation d'initiatives rassembleuses et promouvoir les arts, la culture et le patrimoine de Prescott et Russell. Le CAPRAC agit en tant qu'organisation parapluie, soutenant les diverses organisations artistiques, culturelles et patrimoniales de la région. En tant qu'experts et défenseurs régionaux, nous agissons comme représentants des comtés unis pour mettre en valeur et promouvoir les arts, la culture et le patrimoine locaux. En 2024, le CAPRAC fêtera ses 10 ans. A slide, please. To highlight some of the facts from our proposal, in the last 12 months, our volunteer board of directors has contributed approximately 650 volunteer hours to ensure the perpetuation of our organization. We've recently added 3 new volunteer board members since June of this year. During our last membership year, our Pay What You Can model of membership contribution realized an average of $20 per member. Since June, the average contribution for this membership year is $29 per member. Notre demande de financement décrit 2 résultats désirables. Le résultat A est proposé comme modèle de croissance. Ce résultat inclut le développement de 3 nouveaux programmes permettant une augmentation d'adhésion et de vente, tout en nous permettant de maintenir nos services actuels. Le résultat B est proposé comme modèle de maintenance. Ce résultat nous permet de poursuivre nos activités et de fournir les services que nous offrons actuellement à nos membres, nos partenaires et nos communautés. Le résultat B nous permettrait de maintenir le nombre d'adhésions et le niveau de nos ventes actuelles. Slide, please. Thank you. Our preferred outcome is the growth model outcome A. This model includes the development and administration of 3 new programs. Our municipal mini galleries would identify local businesses willing to host a rotating exhibition of Caprac artists. The intent of this program would be to bring art into public spaces and increase representation of Caprac in the community while supporting increased engagement and involvement with residents and local businesses. The development and administration of new cultural programming is an opportunity to collaborate with other organizations in the region working to develop cultural initiatives and experiences. This programming would be intended to support youth through exposure, awareness, and promoting inclusivity and diversity. Focusing on agriculture as an important aspect of our regional heritage, the development and administration of a new heritage-based program would support local producers and growers as creators, highlighting the traditions of agriculture. The intent of this program would be to encourage collaboration across the sectors of arts, culture, and heritage by developing connection and integration of producers within our network of artists and creators. Outcome A would also allow us to continue to work to increase the level of professional development of our membership through a series of symposiums on varying topics relating to art and business. Le développement, l'administration et la mise en œuvre de ces nouveaux programmes nécessitent des ressources additionnelles en termes de personnel et de publicité, ce qui permettra toutefois d'augmenter nos revenus. Ces nouveaux programmes favorisent l'engagement communautaire et une sensibilisation à notre organisation. Les nouveaux programmes sont conçus pour étendre notre portée au-delà de nos membres actuels et au-delà des artistes pour atteindre les jeunes, les membres engagés de la communauté et les nouveaux arrivants dans la région qui cherchent à s'impliquer dans notre communauté créative. Le programme des mini-galeries permettra à nos artistes de bénéficier d'une visibilité nettement plus grande, ce qui traduira par une augmentation des ventes. Les ressources humaines supplémentaires nous permettront d'identifier, de développer et de gérer davantage de possibilités de financement auprès de sources externes et organismes subventionnaires. This slide. Thank you. Caprac will be celebrating our 10th anniversary in 2024. We are planning to mark the occasion with celebrations around our artists and our community supporters, as well as highlight our accomplishments. Auparavant, cette année, nous avons discuté en détail ce que nous faisons en tant qu'organisation et de l'impact de notre travail sur nos communautés. Nos services actuels sont décrits en détail dans notre proposition, mais nous tentons à mettre l'accent sur plusieurs d'entre ces services, ainsi que notre gestion quotidienne des opérations. Nous nous efforçons d'accomplir notre mission, d'informer nos communautés des événements, activités et initiatives relevant à notre mandat. Nous nous appliquons à unir et rassembler nos communautés rurales par le biais des arts, de la culture et du patrimoine. Nous soutenons des projets individuels et des initiatives communautaires. Nous faisons la promotion de nos membres, de nos partenaires et de nos municipalités dans la région et ailleurs. Nous offrons une plateforme de vente sécurisée à nos membres. Nous gérons et entretenons les œuvres d'art dans notre inventaire. Le Caprac accorde la priorité à l'accessibilité de ses services grâce à son modèle d'adhésion « Payez ce que vous pouvez » et à l'offre de tous ses services et programmes dans les 2 langues officielles. Le financement requis pour le modèle de croissance proposé est de 169 000 $ en fonds opérationnels. Ce financement nous permettrait de réaliser 32 700 $ de recettes supplémentaires grâce à l'augmentation du nombre d'adhésions et de ventes ainsi qu'à l'accroissement des ressources nécessaires pour identifier et mettre en œuvre des opportunités de financement externe. In Outcome B, we are proposing to continue providing our current services without the option for increasing our services or impact. These services have been discussed and are detailed in our proposal. However, we'll take this moment to highlight several of them here. Caprac informs our communities of relevant events, activities, and initiatives. We work to unite our rural communities through arts, culture, and heritage. Caprac supports individual and community-led projects. We promote our members, partners, and municipalities. We manage a secure sales platform offering our members greater sales opportunities. We maintain a database of our members and offer professional resources and consulting. We are accessible through our pay-what-you-can model of membership and as an organization offer all services and programs in both official languages. CAPRAC requires additional human resources to maintain these services. The funding required for our proposed maintenance model is $152,000 in operational funding. These funds would allow us to realize an additional $21,500 in revenues from memberships, sales, and external funding. En résumé, notre demande de financement décrit deux résultats désirables. Résultat A, un modèle de croissance à 169 000 $ en financement opérationnel. Résultat B, un modèle de maintenance pour 152 000 $ de financement opérationnel. Les deux propositions prévoient un ajustement annuel de 3 pour tenir compte à l'inflation, afin d'éviter de nous retrouver dans une situation financière similaire à celle que nous tentons actuellement de rattraper. Un engagement de 3 ans apporterait plus de stabilité à notre planification à long terme avec nos partenaires, avec des ressources de financement externes et permettrait également au CAPRAC d'offrir un environnement de travail plus stable à ses employés. Next slide, please. CAPRAC directly impacts the municipalities of the United Counties by ensuring the strategic vision concerning arts, culture, and heritage goals is upheld and developed. CAPRAC improves the quality of life of residents by reducing isolation of our rural regions through connecting and informing citizens of the various arts, culture, and heritage activities and initiatives. CAPRAC assists and promotes the municipality by elevating the cultural profile of the region through our expertise that helps to acquire new funding and utilizing our network to bring larger projects to the region through our partnerships. CAPRAC preserves the community's heritage and arts and culture as it directly relates to our mandate and strategic plan. CAPRAC supports the community's recreational needs through development and administration of artistic, cultural, and heritage-based programming, which would otherwise not be offered. CAPRAC provides an essential service to the municipalities and residents of the region. We are pleased to have the opportunity to live and work here and showcase the beauty of the region. Au nom de nos membres, de nos bénévoles, de nos partenaires culturels, de nos municipalités et leurs résidents, et au nom de toute l'équipe dévouée du CAPRAC, nous nous remercions de soutenir les arts, la culture et le patrimoine de notre belle région. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Mme Malbeuf. Membre du Conseil, M. Leroux.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Thank you very much for the presentation. In principle, I agree, but I think that this resolution, the way it's worded, it's as if we're approving this today, and we haven't even seen the budget, and we haven't had any budgetary discussions, so I'm a little bit hesitant approving a plan without knowing what's coming at the budget. I know with our Prescott-Russell residents, that's going to have a significant impact on our budget. So the first thing I would suggest is that we defer this resolution till after budget discussion, so we have a better idea where we stand as an organization. One thing I just wanted to ask in regards to the in your outcome B, outcome A, and B in your revenues and your expenses and stuff. I see that in your revenues, I don't see any revenue coming from municipalities when you guys do projects together. Because I know in the past, so when you do projects of that nature, is it solely cost recovery, or is there are you making a profit when you're doing that kind of project?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, and we did want to present this before the budget was approved, so that's why we're here today. In theory, we don't, like you said, we don't make any money on projects, but so for example, a grant that we're working on currently with the municipality of Castleman, we were written in as a consultant, so there's some money for us, which covers the cost of working on this project in addition to our regular work. So it's not that, that's something that once that the project is kind of in the works, then we can factor in that any money that would be coming in from another project. But at the moment, to be conservative, you know, we've included in the budget some money for external revenue, like external granting and things like that, but not directly from the municipalities. Yeah.
Merci, M. Leroux. Madame Lajoie, M. Zant.
Merci. Thank you for the presentation. I am a proponent for the arts, so obviously I would support the motion of supporting option A. I'd just like to know, Madame Graton, do you have any feedback financially about this fund?
Hi, Mr. Warden, Mrs. Lajoie. Right now in our 2023 budget, we have $100,000 for CAPRAC. So if today you have a vision of what you want on the 2024 budget, I can certainly make sure it's included. Like if
Thank
you have
you.
a preference between the two options that are proposed to you.
Thank you. So then in that case, I would go for the option A funding. I think with our community well-being initiative that we're doing, I think arts plays directly into community well-being. And I would love to have this in Castleman as well. If it's rolling out through Prescott-Russell, this helps with tourism. And it gives me a lot more of something that I can promote in our municipality. And if you feel that municipalities need to fund them individually, perhaps that's something we could look at as well. But I feel that at a county level, I think supporting the arts is very important, especially with everything being so tight financially for people. We need something more than just the status quo. And thank you for your presentation. I love what you guys do. It's very important for society.
So you're making a motion to go ahead with the 169,000?
Yes.
Budget's not in place yet, so because you're asking for a resolution in that regards, do I have a seconder? Because if we want to entertain what you're
It would be
asking,
to put in the vision for Madame Graton. I put a motion to put forward a vision
okay,
for the budget, personally, that I would like that reflected in the budget moving forward.
okay, so it's not to support necessarily with their request, but to make
Not
sure
to
that
give
it's
them
in the budget.
Yes, not to give them the money today,
Right.
but that it's going to be put into the
Brought
budget as the
forward
vision.
in the budget. Okay, Monsieur Zant, I have a seconder.
C'est pas vraiment, merci Monsieur le Président, pas vraiment un secondaire, c'est pour dire à Mme Graton, vous avez vraiment une directive de dire, gardez ça en tête quand que vous allez faire le budget. Fait que je pense que ça, c'est correct. Ma question, c'est parce que Mme Lajoie a mentionné qu'on avait tous des budgets de communauté maintenant. Alors, si à un certain temps, on arrive à un point qu'on trouve que les Comtés unis donnent déjà le 100 000 à CAPRAC, on fait souvent ça à nos municipalités à Clarence-Rockland quand on dit, well, we have someone that's requiring money, but we all have discretionary budgets. And we can use our discretionary budgets differently than we can here, but we do have this fund that we can use. So at any point, we'd be able to assist in that way through these community funds like Madame Lajoie mentioned. So I would say, if I could give you a word of recommendation, envoie-nous chacun un courriel, puis on serait capable de discuter de ce budget-là. Ça se peut qu'il y ait des maires qui n'ont plus d'argent, ça se peut qu'il y en a, moi je sais qu'il m'en reste encore, alors je serais capable de voir comment est-ce qu'on pourrait s'aider. Mais pour moi, je pense que juste le mettre au budget, puis que ça soit une pression budgétaire, un budget à discuter. Fait que je ne sais pas si ça vous convient. Ou...
Oui, merci beaucoup.
OK, merci. C'est bon, merci, Monsieur le Président.
Merci, M. Zant. Donc, on a une proposition de l'inclure dans le budget de 2024 pour discussion. Ça va me prendre un appuyeur pour move forward. Monsieur Leroux? Non, c'est juste OK. Si je n'ai pas d'appuyeur... OK.
Si vous me permettez, je suis en accord de discuter ceci au budget. Point final.
Donc, tu appuies la résolution de Mme Lajoie en raison d'inclure ce montant-là dans le budget.
Oui. De discussion.
Oui, ouvert de discussion.
De discussion.
Oui, de discussion. Monsieur Leroux, après ça, Monsieur Lefebvre.
So essentially what we're doing is we defer this resolution that's to budget time, to be part of it, to after budget, because at budget time we will make a decision on what's being requested today. So, ben, on va avoir la discussion, mais if you're asking me to say to the administration, include it at this amount in the budget, I'm not ready to do that at this point in time because I don't even know what the budget's going to look like.
Mais même si ça l'inclurait, ça ne changerait pas rien. On a quand même l'autorité de le faire réduire ou de l'enlever. Fait que une ou l'autre, ça ne change rien. Monsieur Parisien.
Monsieur le Président, membre du Conseil, donc pour ce qui est de la résolution qui est présentée ce matin, M. Leroux a raison. Mais historiquement, ce qu'on fait, c'est qu'on va démontrer les chiffres qui sont payés au budget de l'année précédente. Et quand on a une demande de financement majorée, on va l'inclure dans ce qui a changé par rapport à l'an dernier. Donc, de notre côté à nous, indépendamment de ce qui arrive, Mme Gratton, dans le budget, a indiqué, bien, l'an passé, on a versé 100 000, cette année, il nous demande X, Y, Z. Donc, voici où sont les augmentations cette année.
Monsieur Lefebvre.
Oui, merci, M. le Président. Et ma question a été répondue par M. Parisien. Voulait être que le montant soit identifié séparément et clairement. Et Mme Gratton a mentionné tantôt que cette année, on avait un montant de 100 000 puis là, on demande à 169 000 alors quand même une hausse assez considérable. Alors, je voudrais que ce soit vraiment identifié. Parce qu'après toute question de budget, c'est toujours les ressources et nos priorités. Alors, merci pour votre présentation, mais j'aimerais ça que ça soit clairement identifié dans le budget pour discussion. Merci. Merci, M. le Président.
Merci, M. Lefebvre. Donc, résolution, c'est d'inclure le 169 pour afin de discussion au budget.
Right, so
Proposeur.
on this resolution,
Proposé.
motion to defer this resolution till after budget.
Elle n'est même pas là, la résolution.
Ben,
C'était sur... Right.
OK.
C'était une recommandation de résolution sans aller de l'avant avec nécessairement ce qui était écrit. La proposition on hand is to discuss 169,000 in the upcoming budget. Perfect. A PR. Yes, you can add.
Merci, Monsieur Président. I would just have like a recommendation would be to, in your proposal, also to demonstrate how this could help with tourism across Prescott-Russell, because I know the tourism provincially, they're trying to push that. So I think that would help as well, and also looking at the community aspect, how it helps with community, social cohesion. I think it would add a little bit more depth. Well, not like, I mean, what you have is wonderful, but perhaps just more justification for the additional funding.
Thank you, Mme Lajoie. Mme Malbeuf.
Oui, merci. Merci beaucoup pour ça.
OK. Proposé par Mme Lajoie, appuyé de M. Zant, que le 169 000 soit inclus dans le budget pour discussion. Tous en faveur? Contre? Adopté. Merci beaucoup, Mme Malbeuf, pour la présentation. Au prochain budget, le sort sera discuté, puis on verra de ce que le futur vous apportera. C'est bon? Merci beaucoup. On va aller à l'item numéro 5.1. We'll go back to 5.1, a delegation in regards to Mme Rhonda Bradley, résidente de la municipalité de Russell, concerning communication in regards to the United Counties of Prescott-Russell. Est-ce que Mme Bradley est présente?
I am present. Thank you.
There we go. You have the floor.
And thank you very much for your patience as I sort out my technical difficulties. Thank you for that. So, as I mentioned before, my name is Rhonda Bradley. I'm a resident of the Township of Russell, and I have been in the township since 2016. I wanted to acknowledge that I am speaking to you today from the South Nation River watershed and pay respect to the Algonquin people, the traditional guardians of this land. I have a professional background of more than 25 years in the area of communications, advocacy, and community building, and have a great passion for this particular topic, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you about it today. Statement of the challenge really begins for us in May. A group of neighbors and myself were surprised to learn that there had been a land use change made in the official plan, and that initiated a number of conversations with the county. And in fact, we did learn that the minimal requirements had been met as laid out in the provincial planning policy as it related to communications and engagement with official plan development. However, the report that came to council itself acknowledges that there wasn't a lot of engagement. In fact, comments were not numerous. And we feel that given the significance of land use within our county, that more meaningful engagement and communication could be useful. So next slide, please. So I don't need to explain this to anyone here, but I'll just sort of quickly go through it, that there are a number of barriers to civic engagement, particularly in rural communities. Distance is one. We often have to travel long distances to connect and go to meetings. Internet can be spotty at times, and as we all experience today, digital engagement comes with its own challenges. The sources of rural news are few and continue to be diminished. So Le Reflet, for example, is now going into supermarkets as opposed to being distributed throughout the community. So that's a major change in how we receive news. And of course, Facebook is now blocking the posting of news sources. So that really limits our potential to get news in the community. We also have a lot of seasonal priorities, as we all know, and many of us, and Russell is one of them, operate as bedroom communities where a lot of residents' time is spent somewhere else and not in the community. So these are all barriers to engagement in our communities. Next slide, please. And this slide really shows that there is a difference between basic communication and engagement and meaningful communication engagement. And it's really, this is presented as a ladder. And I really feel like when it comes to official plans, we want to be moving further up the ladder, given its significance to all of us in terms of the complexity of land use decisions. Next slide, please. With meaningful engagement, there's also an acknowledgement that meaningful means equitable. And to create more equitable opportunities for public engagement, it really rests on these four principles. So intentionality means that you can absolutely meet the minimum requirements and tick boxes, or you can be intentional about really wanting to hear what people have to say. Authenticity means that you come to the table as listeners and not necessarily with a predetermined agenda. Trust is really about sharing power, and I would say that goes both ways, that we develop confidence in our representatives, and our representatives develop confidence in the community, and that paradigm shifting is really about sort of making a conscious commitment to nothing for us without us. And there are a lot of benefits, if I can go to the next slide, for enhancing communication and increasing meaningful engagement in our community. A big one is trust, and that is particularly important, and increasingly important in today's world. Trust in our public institutions is at an all-time low. Engagement tends to lead to more engagement, and we can always use more of that in our communities. There's a broader pool of knowledge and ideas. This county is made up of people with all sorts of different expertise and knowledge, and we can draw on that. It reduces isolation, creates connections, and facilitates a sense of belonging. And of course, it creates new community leaders. So there are a lot of benefits, and those are just a few. There are some best practices in terms of communications within rural communities. I would say that having a communication plan for large-scale projects should also include mapping out the stakeholders' journey. How are people going to get information, and where are the gaps where information may be missed or misunderstood? the mechanisms for communication need to be expanded beyond print media and in person. Those were the main sources of communication within the official plan process, and we really need to be expanding beyond that. Communication must be two-way. And this is a common principle within communications. Just when you are sick and tired of hearing the message, the average stakeholder is just hearing it. And so you can never say it too much or too often. Consistency is really important. So ensuring that what people see in a meeting and what is shared across all platforms is the same message, because a lack of consistency often creates confusion and misunderstanding. One click really refers to the fact that we have expectations in this digital world that access to information, it comes with one click, and I don't believe that we need to necessarily always deliver with one click. However, considering that and looking at how deeply a constituent needs to go in order to find the information they're looking for is always a consideration in terms of facilitating better communication. And I think particularly in rural communities, acknowledging the context is really important. We saw earlier this summer when the Ford government released some plans related to agricultural land, and a lot of the farming community came back and said, we're in the middle of hay production, and this is not a good time for us. So just considering the context, and of course we all lived through a global pandemic, and that was a big barrier for a lot of us. The next slide is really just demonstrating the different types of engagement, and the type of communication that goes along with those really depends on what type of engagement you want. So there's an interrelationship between those, and engaged communication and engaged participation is really in the middle of that Venn diagram, where you see that people are informed, consulted, and involved. Next slide, please. So best practices for meeting engagement in rural communities using multiple channels. A lot more smaller scale efforts can often achieve greater results. So more small meetings in a broader range of communities. Feedback and follow through are critical. So that's the two-way communication, being able to respond to people's concerns and demonstrate that they've been heard. And I'll go to the next slide. This is my recommendation that I'm wanting to bring forward to the council today, that there be a review of the communications engagement strategy and activities surrounding the last updated official plan, and that there be identified areas for growth and change, and that report and its recommendations be brought forward to council prior to the end of this term. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Bradley, for the presentation and the feedback. I have council questions. Madame Lajoie.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Bradley, I'm listening to your delegation here, and I feel that it's quite loaded. There's a lot of assumptions in place that, saying that people are not being informed, consulted, involved, yet I feel like the mayor of your township is one of the most highly engaging mayors of all of us, and I do see his Facebook. He puts me to shame with the amount of engagement, community engagement he puts out in his community, and I feel that he's definitely doing his part in that respect. I know that you're coming to us as a county, however, I've never heard of your name before, and you've never once reached out to me. So I think it's important to recognize that residents have a major responsibility in keeping like keeping track of what's happening. I don't know if you've been listening to our YouTube videos. Everything's online. Everything that we do is with integrity, transparency, and I personally don't feel comfortable with the assumption that I'm doing something in my communication and not properly reaching out to. And I'm listening to what you're saying, and I hear what you're saying. I think it's important that community members and residents meet us halfway as well. There's, I think communication goes both ways. So in this respect, I think I'm hearing your delegation and you want to change the communication, but I think there's a lot of steps that have been missed. I think first step would be to email us and talk to us as people. Perhaps reach out to our CAO, Monsieur Parisien. He has all the information you need. We have the planning and forestry, Mr. Prévost. He would be able to give you all that information as well. So it's not that we're not giving you the information you need. Perhaps you just don't know how to find it. And all that is on our website. It's all in our YouTube videos. And then, Facebook to me is really not a source of news at all. I think a lot of miscommunications go out there and cause a lot of escalations that are not necessary. And everything that you need regarding this land use planning in our official plan is on our site. So I'm just confused as to where exactly you feel that we are not communicating properly, and specifically what you feel you need to understand better the process of the democracy that we're presenting here. So that's my question to you is, specifically, as a resident, how have you reached out to council here? And secondly, what exactly is it that you feel that you need?
So, lots of questions in there. I will try to
No, there's two questions. It's
okay.
Who have you reached out to on the county level, council and staff? That's the first question. And second question is, what exactly do you need, like specifically?
So we, the neighbors and myself, have had extensive conversations with Mr. Prévost, and I did ask that the email trail for that particular conversation or those extensive conversations be forwarded to council, so that you get a sense of what our concerns were as it relates to the official plan. I'm not sure if you saw that or not, but we did speak quite extensively there. I would say that the official plan and the county's responsibility for land use planning and how it impacts a local township is not well understood by residents. And therefore, the residents may not always be looking at the county level for those kinds of decisions. So I think that could be made more aware. I also feel that the report to council on the planning process, which I put in my challenge statement, said that the comments and participation was not numerous. So I think that you could interpret that a couple of ways. You could suggest that maybe people aren't interested or don't want to be involved, or perhaps there was another barrier. And my suggestion here, and the reason why I'm here, is that I believe there were other barriers to participation, and that I would have been involved had I understood and had I known that these processes were happening. And I think I can say that on behalf of my neighbors as well.
Thank you. And what about who have you contacted on council for better support? So if you felt that Mr. Prévost was not sending us the emails, or there was a breakdown in communication, you do know that you could reach out to us personally. And you mentioned Facebook. I'm on Facebook, social media, and on it, I'm very accessible. My cell phone's out there in the public. You could call me. Council does represent the people of the counties. So, I guess looking at communication, perhaps that would be an important thing to communicate moving forward to the residents on how they could reach out.
I did. I did intend to reach out through Mr. Prévost and asked that correspondence be forwarded, and that was my intention. I can't speak to whether that happened or whether you had an opportunity to read it, but I felt that I had been reaching out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Bradley. And because Mr. Prévost's name was mentioned, I'd like to hear if Mr. Prévost has a statement or a defense to do.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, members of council. As Mrs. Bradley indicated, we had email transcripts earlier in the spring, and I forwarded a bunch of information to Mrs. Bradley and also to some of her neighbors with regards to the official plan review and whatnot, and reports that were presented to council. And one of the requests of Mrs. Bradley was that I share her emails with council, which I did, and which I confirmed with Mrs. Bradley once I did. So I just want to clarify that.
And they can also reach out at their own municipalities to their own planners in regards if they don't understand the planning department. So I understand that United Counties has a bigger view of the bigger plan, but each municipalities are also involved, so they understand exactly what their areas are being affected in or about. Monsieur Prévost?
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Warden, members of council, especially in the area where Mrs. Bradley resides. There's quite a significant change in the industrial park expansion, the 417 industrial park, and I know that the municipality has an extensive public consultation with regards to overall expansion of that park. So it was not only the official plan review that was involved, there was also the extensive public consultation with regards to the municipality itself.
May I speak to that?
Madam Bradley, I'll come back to you in a second. I have to go to council members first. Merci, Monsieur Prévost. Monsieur Leroux.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. I just, Mrs. Bradley, thank you for your presentation. And, you know, I'm somebody who's, as Madame Lajoie said, I'm all about communication and engagement. I do know for a fact that our CAO previously, before leaving, offered to have a meeting with you and residents, with all our administrative staff in relation to planning, infrastructure, and you turned down his offer of a face-to-face meeting. So, you know, I understand that you're coming here and you're making a presentation, but engagement is a two-way street. And just because, you know, residents can provide feedback does not necessarily mean that that feedback will result in the outcome you're looking for. We did, as stated, we have met the standards of communication. Simply because a resident doesn't understand that, then there has to be a willingness on the part of the residents to learn what the process is. And as Madame Lajoie said, to reach out to members of council, of staff. But at one point in time, council has to make a decision, which we've done with the official plan. I understand you're probably not happy with the decision, but I find it frustrating that you were offered an opportunity for a 1-2 hour meeting with all my administrative staff at the municipality, and you turned that down, which just boggles my mind.
Okay, I need to clarify that we did not turn down the meeting. I think that
I could read you the email if you like in public.
Please go ahead.
The length of the email, I'm not going to do that, but I'm happy to have a conversation with you. I have walked with the mayor sessions twice a week at the Dome. Send me an email. I'll be happy to sit down and have a conversation with you. But I have seen the email and the response, and the offer was made. So.
Specifically, what we said was that we've asked a number of questions trying to understand this process, to your point, and that we haven't received any answers to our questions to date, and that we would like to be able to receive some of those answers and absorb them prior to meeting with your team. So we are absolutely, and I reiterated that more than once, we are absolutely interested in meeting with staff, but we would like some answers before we have that meeting and have an opportunity to consider that information. And in response to what Mr. Privot has said about public consultation, last Friday we received a letter from the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks stating that indeed there had been problems with public consultation and that there was a stop to all processes related to the work that the EA and the addendum were meant to cover. So to say that there was full public consultation, I think we have evidence to the contrary, that there are some gaps. I think what I'm trying to say here is that there are gaps, and I've tried to be constructive by offering that we all could do better. And these are some of the ways that I believe that you could do better. And that is why I am here making this presentation today.
Thank you, Madam Bradley. Last comment, Madam Lajoie, and then we're done the subject.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, Ms. Bradley, I think it's just the matter in which that this delegation was presented. I feel it kind of, it was more accusatory than constructive. And I just want to put out that I will meet with you personally. So I think you should reach out to me. And you and I could have a conversation so that I could fully understand the situation, and perhaps I could help you develop a way that we could engage council with a communication plan that would be helpful for you.
Thank you.
Okay?
That would be great.
And I'll
Thank
leave it
you.
like that. Thank you, Ms. Bradley. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Bradley, for the presentation, and I totally agree. Trust and communication is on top of our list, and the counties were no different. We believe and strive towards being very transparent and communicate with our citizens and the people around us. So thank you. Have a nice day, and if there's any other concerns, please contact your local councillors, local mayor, or like Madame Lajoie said, give her a call or a text, and she'll be happy to have a chit-chat with you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 6, point de consentement, consented items. There are 7 or 8, hold on a second, 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4. Going through the list, if there's any one of them that you would like to pull out before we adopt the point de consentement? None? I have one. Can I pull one out? And we'll just discuss it for a second. 6.8, cible de délai d'intervention 2024. On vient de passer à travers d'une présentation avec le ministère de la Santé à Hameau. Ah oui? Bon, on aurait pu l'inclure tout de suite. Là. Alors, il n'y a même pas de résolution pour. OK.
Si vous êtes correct, on peut l'inclure. C'est juste une question.
C'est juste une question. C'est pas pour rien. Si on veut la sortir, on peut la sortir. Bon, sac, moi.
C'est une question, vous êtes correct? Oui, c'est bon.
Êtes-vous en train de me bosser, là? Ouais, ça prend une réponse. OK, attends une minute. On sort la 6.8, là, puis on va la faire comme du monde. Qu'il soit résolu que le Conseil approuve l'option 1 des cibles et les cibles de délai de réponse. Non, attends une minute, là, toi, là. Je passe à la bonne page, pas tout. On fait 6.6 en premier?
Non, juste 6.
Juste 6, oui, absolument. Qu'il soit résolu que les points de consentement soient adoptés, sauf l'item 6.8. Pour discussion. There we go. Proposeur, appuyeur. M. Zant, appuyé de M. Lefebvre. Tous en faveur? Contre? Adopté. 6.8. On va en passer séparément. Parce qu'on est allé à la convention de Hameau, il y a eu une discussion, on a eu une rencontre avec le ministre de la Santé. Entendu que, plus loin, on parle de services d'urgence, à l'item 8.2, qui est le 8.2.1. À cause que les critères, on veut les garder de même que l'année 2023, mais dans le rapport de 8.2.1, ça stipule différemment. À cause qu'on perd 4200 heures de temps d'ambulance, est-ce que notre cible n'est pas affectée par le rendement du temps qu'on manque dans notre quartier ou région? M. Perriard, comprenez-vous ma question? Ou je peux lire le paragraphe en entier de ce que ce paragraphe-là, à la page 3, le 5e paragraphe qui dit.
Monsieur le Président, membre du Conseil, je pense que je comprends votre question. Et puis, c'est pour ça qu'on recommande de garder avec les mêmes cibles. Vu que le rapport identifie qu'il y a des facteurs externes qui affectent notre capacité de rencontrer nos temps de réponse, les changer à la baisse pour pouvoir les rencontrer ferait juste genre... it would sort of mask the fact that we are achieving our response times, but really there's no improvement in the service that we're giving to the community. By keeping the same response times and with the changes that are coming, which are going to be identified in that next point in the 8, you'll see that with our new dispatching system, with increased funding for community paramedics, with increasing of staff, we're hoping that these changes that we've been lobbying for the longest time will be able to help us meet the standards that we've set in 2022, 2023, and 2024. So by reducing them in 2024, it would just say that we're accepting the new norm and not letting the new processes in place make it that we're showing that we're doing what we were intending to do a couple of years ago.
Merci pour la réponse. C'était peut-être pas la réponse que je cherchais, c'était plutôt que si on ne rencontre pas nos cibles, est-ce que ce n'est pas un indicateur qu'on pourrait se servir à la province pour lui dire, regardez, là, on a des bonnes cibles, mais on ne peut pas les rencontrer à cause de ces facteurs-là. Sans aller les mettre à la baisse pour dire, hey, oui, on est bon dans Prescott-Russell, on rencontre nos normes, mais dans le fond, on ne les rencontre pas.
Monsieur le Président, membre du Conseil, évidemment, à chaque année, lorsqu'on rapporte nos temps de réponse, et puis évidemment, on identifie qu'on ne rencontre pas nos cibles, c'est les raisons qu'on identifie. On doit identifier pourquoi, et puis on identifie parce que nos ressources sont tirées dans d'autres municipalités à cause des délais dans les hôpitaux. Alors, le ministère, ils sont au courant de la raison, et puis évidemment, on l'identifie lorsqu'on rapporte nos chiffres à chaque année.
Merci beaucoup. Monsieur Lefebvre.
Oui, merci, M. le Président, et merci, M. Perriard, pour les commentaires. Puis je comprends très bien ce que vous voulez faire. Ma question, c'est si on ne rencontre pas les cibles, si on voulait les mettre, selon M. le Président mentionne, des cibles basées sur les nouvelles directives ou les nouvelles choses qui sont proposées, quelles sont les conséquences si on ne rencontre pas les cibles avec le ministère de la Santé? Est-ce qu'il y a des pénalités?
Monsieur le Président, membre du Conseil, M. Lefebvre, il n'y a pas vraiment de conséquences. Les cibles sont établies, si vous voulez, au début par la province. Il y a certaines cibles qu'on ne peut pas modifier, mais les autres cibles, c'est vraiment la discrétion de la municipalité. Puis évidemment, le département de services d'urgence fait une évaluation des ressources qu'on a disponibles. Et puis c'est de là, est-ce qu'on peut évaluer, est-ce qu'on a besoin d'autres ressources, est-ce qu'on a besoin peut-être de changer notre plan de déploiement. Évidemment, on le voit, à chaque année, c'est toujours la même chose. Our resources are getting pulled into other municipalities, and then obviously with COVID and the reduction of health human resources that have had a negative effect on our capacity to have paramedics on the road. By changing the percentages, it will not change how we respond to our community. So the numbers that we have here make sense for the resources that we have if they are always available like we want them to be. So we use this sort of as a sounding board, as the warden said, to the ministry to say we need to help with offload delays, we need to increase capacity into colleges, and we need to stop responding to other municipalities so that we can meet our standards.
Merci, M. Perriard.
Merci pour la réponse, M. Perriard. Merci, M. Lefebvre. Donc, autres commentaires, d'autres questions? M. Parisien, s'il vous plaît.
Monsieur le Président, membre du Conseil, donc en lien avec votre question, Monsieur le Président, et simplement pour un point d'information, I'd like to tell members of Council that at the conference on Tuesday morning, we had a joint delegation related to the number of calls that we make with the City of Ottawa. So 5 partners being SDNG, ourselves, Lanark, Leeds and Grenville, and Renfrew, went to meet the minister, and the warden was there, Monsieur Perriard was there, so was I, and our MPP, Monsieur Sarrazin, was there as well, but for the lack of space, not everyone was invited to the delegation. So we have a bit of a plan in place whereby we're going to try to meet with the mayor of Ottawa for initial discussion to see how we can address the woes that we have with them, especially since UCPR is the one that's hurting the most in terms of spending time with offload delays and whatnot in the city of Ottawa. What we've also agreed to do was to stay out of the media and try to focus on having a meaningful discussion with the new mayor of Ottawa, see where that goes, and that if that is not successful, then we would go back to the minister at the Roma conference. So I just want to bring you up to speed on what the highlights of the delegation was. And Mr. Warden or Monsieur Perriard, if you feel that I missed something, please jump in.
Merci, M. Parisien. Non, c'était pas mal accurate puis de l'être au point concernant ce qu'on vit tous les jours avec notre système d'ambulance et de service à la santé des gens. Donc, on va passer à la résolution qui concerne l'item numéro 6.8 comme suit. Qu'il soit résolu que le Conseil approuve l'option 1 et les cibles de délai de réponse pour l'année 2024 telles qu'ils sont présentés dans la pièce jointe au présent rapport. Proposeur appuyeur, M. Leroux, appuyé de M. Zant. All those in favor, ceux en faveur, ceux qui sont contre, adopté. Passons à l'item numéro 7, avis de motion, résolution écrite des membres. M. le maire Leroux, 7.1.1, demande d'appui à la demande de subvention de la municipalité de Russell pour le Fonds de développement de l'Est de l'Ontario et le Fonds de développement du Sud-Ouest de l'Ontario. Monsieur Leroux.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. These are standard requests des municipalités when we're putting applications in. Obviously, we want a support letter from the administration, the counties. I think it's just a technicality in this case because the timing and we were off for the summer and stuff. I think we should be giving a direction to the administration that any time a municipality asks for a support letter, I thought we had this discussion in the past, we should be offering support letters. As long as we're not saying we're supporting this project over this project, I think just a standard generic letter saying, you know, we support the request of the municipality, you know, just to streamline the process, but that's just my suggestion. But obviously, we're just asking for support in this case.
Merci, M. Leroux. M. Zan, puis je vous envoie à M. Parisien après. M. Parisien premier.
No, Monsieur le Président, members of council, we had similar requests in the past related to getting support to local municipalities. And at one point, and my memory fails me as to what year it was, we actually made a support letter to a municipality that was a disadvantage to another local municipality, whereby we seemed to be favoring one project over another. And at that point, I made the recommendation to council that whenever a request from a local municipality was to support something, it would come to this council because I didn't want to wear the burden of being pinned at someone that was favoring another. If council feels that they want to change that way of doing business, that's fine with me, and we'll do it too. But when we write a letter of support, rather than be generic, I like to put some meat on the bone and, you know, have a meaningful letter that goes out with your application. That being said, it's up to council to decide if the way of doing business needs to be changed.
Merci, M. Parisien. M. Zant.
Merci, M. le Président. M. Parisien, aucun problème avec la façon que c'est fait, honnêtement. I think it's a really great thing. I think as a Tier 2, we should be supporting our local municipalities. Moi, j'aurais juste un changement à proposer. Le deuxième paragraphe, ou le dernier paragraphe qui dit « En tant que partenaire et collaborateur ». Moi, je veux faire sûr que ça nous I want to make sure that it's not going to tie our hands into becoming a partner in the project and a collaborator in the specific project. So I would just say, as a Tier 2 municipality, we encourage this initiative. I don't know if I would put partner and collaborateur. That's just I don't know how everybody else feels on it. It's not a hill I'm willing to die on, so whatever everyone goes with, I'll follow suit. I just want to make sure there's no legal implications for this.
Bon point, M. Zant. M. Lefebvre.
Merci, M. le Président, et je suis d'accord avec le commentaire de M. Zant. Et M. Leroux, quand même, il a demandé en anglais « to support ». Alors, on ne parle pas de partenaire, on ne parle pas de collaborateur, ça ne veut pas dire les mêmes choses. Et je suis d'accord avec le commentaire de M. Parisien, parce que tu ne vas pas envoyer des lettres génériques qui deviennent quelque chose qu'on sort automatiquement. Tu veux mettre un peu de punch ou à la demande et si supporté par une réduction par le Conseil, je pense que ça a plus depuis. Puis je ne pense pas qu'il y a beaucoup de demandes qui sont faites tous les mois à cet effet-là. Alors, je suis d'accord avec le commentaire de M. Parisien. Tu vas avoir une lettre qui est quand même plus tangible qu'une lettre d'appui automatique. Merci.
Merci, M. Lefebvre. Any other comments, questions, concerns? I have a resolution. Be it resolved that Council support the Township of Russell's grant application for the Eastern Ontario Development Fund and the Southwestern Ontario Development Fund through a letter of support.
Can I ask, sorry,
Go ahead.
Mr. Warden, if we can talk about, are we removing that partner and collaborateur sentence and just replacing it with tier 2? We never really discussed that.
Okay, are we using the same letter or just the counties are going to rewrite a letter in regards to support?
Merci.
Okay, so in the resolution, it will reflect as modified by your request. C'est bon, Monsieur Lefebvre?
Excuse me, but isn't the resolution you just read saying a letter of support? That's all. So that's the resolution. What Mr. C'est ça.
Ouais, juste clarification.
Go ahead.
The resolution is saying a letter of support. It's not saying this specific letter of support. So the administration will word it in the appropriate way they feel that's going forward, but it's not specifically what was written there.
All understood? Sans faveur? Contre? Proposeur, c'est M. Leroux, appuyé de M. Laviolette. Il nous manque un bout. Les vacances ont été dures. J'ai perdu le fil. Ça va me revenir. Bon, tout en faveur, oui. Prendre un break? 2 minutes de break, ou 5 minutes. On est de retour sur YouTube, donc on continue à notre prochain item sur l'agenda. On s'en va à l'item 8, le rapport des départements des comtés, des comités, excusez. 8.1, l'administration, 8.1.1. On s'en va avec l'ébauche d'une politique de financement pour le fonds communautaire et culturel. Avant d'embarquer dans un gros débat, M. Parisien.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, membre du Conseil, je ne veux pas faire renaître le feu de ses cendres, mais je veux quand même avoir une discussion puis une approche qui va nous permettre d'aller de l'avant avec ça, parce que pour l'élément de la politique, on fait du surplace. On a présenté une politique en forme ébauche. Il y a des membres du Conseil qui ont voulu la regarder puis nous envoyer des commentaires. J'ai pas de problème avec ça, mais je pense que quand on commence un échange de politique comme ça, on n'en finira plus. Donc, je voulais juste ramener les choses à la case départ et indiquer que, de prime abord, ce qu'on a décidé à la dernière réunion, et Mme Cadieux pourra me corriger si ce n'est pas le cas, c'est qu'il y a 2 municipalités sur 6 qui ont opté pour avoir l'argent versé chez eux, puis eux vont verser cet argent-là à l'organisme à qui ils voudront le faire, puis ils feront rapport au Conseil à ce moment-là. Les 6 autres ont opté pour garder l'argent ici, et possiblement que si cet argent-là n'est pas dépensé d'ici la fin de l'année, que les sommes seront reportées au budget 2024, de sorte que you can accrue this money for the full 4 years. And that is what we agreed upon through a resolution. Correct, Mme Cadieux?
Présentement, on a reçu une résolution de Rockland qui transfère son argent dans sa municipalité. Par la suite, on a reçu une lettre du maire Leroux indiquant qu'il transfère son argent en réserve au niveau des comtés. On attend toujours 6 lettres qui nous indiquent est-ce qu'il transfère dans leur municipalité ou est-ce qu'il transfère en réserve. M.
Kirby avait indiqué qu'il voulait avoir l'argent chez eux, lui.
Il y avait des lettres nécessaires à nous envoyer.
Mais we agreed at least that they could either have the money themselves or they could accrue it for the next 4 years. That's all we've agreed upon. Donc, s'il y a une politique qui est en place, puis que vous décidez de garder l'argent à base de comté parce que le maire décide où ça s'en va, nous, quand on va envoyer les sommes, indépendamment du montant à l'organisme que vous choisissez ou au projet, on va devoir entrer dans une entente contractuelle, faire signer un document, demander un document d'assurance de l'ordre de 5 millions, parce que ça, c'est notre politique. Donc, ce sont tous des éléments qui vont vous gosser. Parce que, indépendamment de la situation, il y a du red tape dans la façon dont on fait les choses en raison de notre politique d'approvisionnement. J'avais recommandé au Conseil qu'il n'y en ait pas du tout de politique pour le début de cette initiative-là, puis on verra par la suite comment ça peut se ficeler, parce que ça n'existe pas, puis on est novateur en termes de conseil pour commencer à faire ce genre de choses-là. Donc, ceci étant dit, ce qui reste à régler, c'est en fait la fameuse politique qui n'est pas adoptée par le Conseil, qui est toujours en mode ébauche et où on fait du surplace. Je vais me reprendre une deuxième fois et recommander au Conseil qu'il n'y ait pas de politique pour le moment. De toute façon, cette discussion-là viendra à la table du Conseil par l'entremise d'une résolution, par l'entremise d'une lettre, et vous pourrez à ce moment-là décider de la façon dont on va procéder. Dans l'intermédiaire, pour permettre à l'administration de mettre ça de côté, je vais vous recommander, même si ce n'est pas quelque chose qu'on souhaite, de ne pas avoir de politique pour le moment et de simplement reporter ça quand on saura exactement ce qu'on va faire avec cet argent-là. Parce que pour l'ensemble de nous qui est assis sur ce côté-ci, ce n'est même pas clair encore.
M. Zant, M. Leroux.
Merci, M. le Président. M. Parisien. Écoute, complètement d'accord. Je pense que la politique, peut-être, va juste nuire à plusieurs choses. En ce qui concerne le transfert qui a été fait à Clarence Rockland, je crois que c'était pour cette année seulement, parce qu'on n'avait rien. C'est pas pour toutes les années. Alors, juste pour vous dire, je retombe en ligne pour 2024. C'est correct. Par contre, il y a certaines... Puis je comprends de ne pas en avoir une, mais il y a certaines choses que j'aime là-dedans, que j'aimerais quand même qu'on fasse. Un rapport aux Comtés unis avec les fonds Mais si on n'a pas de politique, il n'y a rien qui nous mandate de venir puis être transparent à ce conseil pour dire voici comment est-ce qu'on l'a dépensé. Est-ce qu'à place d'avoir une pleine politique, est-ce que ça serait possible, Mme Cadieux, d'avoir une couple de lignes directrices concernant les choses qu'on peut faire et peut pas faire, sans vraiment avoir une politique officielle? Parce que je sais que that blends in to each other a little. Je ne sais pas si vous êtes capable de répondre.
La politique peut simplement mentionner des lignes directrices. Donc, ça serait la même chose. On peut simplement simplifier la politique. On a seulement besoin des directives. C'est quelle section on doit retirer, quelle section vous voulez ajouter. Je pense qu'une politique, c'est la façon de faire, mais on peut complètement l'alléger si vous le souhaitez.
Merci, Mme Cadieux. Je ne sais pas, M. Parisien, si vous êtes d'accord, parce que certaines choses qu'on voudrait faire sûr que I think the transparency is very important. I think everything that we're going to be doing with this is important. But the whole policy is a little heavy. So if we could go that route, I would be happy with that.
Monsieur le Président, Monsieur Zand, si on parle d'éléments génériques ou de grandes lignes, j'ai pas de problème. Mais il faut adresser le processus administratif. Donc, si le Conseil ne veut pas se souscrire à la politique d'approvisionnement, on va l'indiquer dans la politique. Donc, on n'aura pas d'entente contractuelle avec le tiers et on n'exigera pas non plus de certificat d'assurance. Moi, c'est ça que je vais éviter parce que c'est ça qui va accrocher. Parce que dans des cas, on va demander à un organisme, puis je vous donne un exemple très fictif, puis peut-être que ça n'arrivera pas. Le maire dit, moi, je veux qu'on envoie 5 000 $ à XYZ. XYZ, on lui demande un certificat d'assurance de 5 millions qui va lui coûter 1 500 $. Bien là, on fait à maths, là, c'est 3 500 que tu vas avoir. Puis c'est pas le but de la politique. Donc, moi, je veux éviter ça pour le moment, puis je veux que le Conseil se laisse la chance de voir où il veut aller avec ça, parce que même pour certains maires, je ne suis pas convaincu que c'est clair ce que vous allez faire avec ça. Fait que si vous ne l'êtes pas, moi et mon équipe, on l'est encore moins, puis on ne veut pas vexer personne là-dedans, puis on veut juste, we just want to move on.
Moi, dans ma tête, c'est tellement clair, c'est 5.3, c'est tout aussi simple que ça. Monsieur Leroux.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je suis d'accord d'avoir des lignes directrices. If I look at what was the spirit of this discussion, what was the spirit of these funds? I think there's two things that were very important. One, this was put in place to help with recognition of the United Counties of Prescott-Russell when they are providing funds. Because right now, they do provide funds to local municipalities and there's no recognition. So that was one important factor. The second factor that I saw in my mind was transparency. It was that this council would be making decisions on how those funds were distributed. A mayor would come to the table, say, this is what I would like to do, and if council was in agreement, would say, we agree with this in principle. The mayor would work with the administration to put a contract in place if necessary, depending what the funds are. It might be a simple, and then that would come back to say, from the administration's perspective, this is what is needed to move forward with this. And depending on the size of the contract or whatever the case is, it might be that they require, a insurance policy. It might not be. It might be that these are funds that we're going to put into agreements with the municipalities. So, for example, if I decide I want to build a splash pad, well, then I would need from my council a resolution accepting that. So I think it was funds have to be approved here. Mayors can make commitments if they wish, but it's still this table that approves those commitments. So it's making sure that when we're talking to people saying, I have funds available, but I have to get them confirmed at the county council table. I think that was the spirit and the intention of what I brought forward.
Merci, M. Leroux. M. Kirby, Mme Lajoie.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. I'll just use my example. I want it for a community center in Saint-Eugène. With whom do I bring this to the table first, or do I meet with un des quartiers de l'administration?
No, Monsieur le Président, Monsieur Kirby, in your case, it's very simple.
I thought so.
What you need from you is a resolution from your council saying that you want the money transferred to your municipality. And then you'll let us know what you want to use it for, and that'll be the end of it.
Thank you very much. That should be easy.
Madame Cadieux?
If Mr. Kirby spends the fund this year, he will have to sign an agreement. So I guess with the municipality?
Donc, Monsieur le Président, là, pourquoi est-ce qu'on ne prépare pas, moi et Mme Cadieux, là, une procédure ou des lignes, des grandes lignes qu'on vous ramène à la prochaine réunion, là, puis on ne l'appellera pas la politique, on va l'appeler pour le moment une procédure qui englobe tout ça, to move forward.
100% d'accord. Juste donner la chance à Mme Lajoie, puis move forward. Oh, M. Lafèvre après. Mme Cadieux.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I like to work in policies and procedures. I like to have something governing me. That doesn't mean I don't challenge policies and procedures, but I need something to help me stay focused. So I support whatever you guys want to do here, but I personally will follow whatever's written here. I think it's brilliant. I just have a few questions, though, for myself, if I were to just follow this, just for me. In terms of insurance, can I use our municipalities' insurance? How does that work if you need insurance?
Monsieur le Président, Madame Lajoie, let's say the money is transferred to your municipality. You're already covered under your, okay, so I don't have to do anything. But right now, what our procurement policy states is when the county sends money to a third party, we require them to have a certificate of insurance. It's pretty much an executive summary. I'll vulgarize it. It's an executive summary of their insurance policy that says, we're covered for $5 million, we've got this and that. It's a certificate. But most of the entities, I'm not going to say most, but a number of them are covered only for $2 million. We require, as per council's policy, $5 million. And in some cases, for them to get $5 million as opposed to $2, which is what they normally have, is sometimes a bit costly. And sometimes the insurance product does not meet the needs of the entity. So let's say, for instance, I'm sending $5,000 to the Castleman Boy Scouts through a recommendation of you, and they have very little insurance and they don't have a $5 million policy. Well, if I request them to get the $5 million certificate, that may mean that they may have to spend $1,500 to get it. So in the end, we're only sending them $3,500, which is not what you want. So council has the right to remove that exemption, to make that exemption and say, we don't want to do this at all. My preferred choice would be to send every single municipality the money at your place, sign an agreement with you guys, and you tell us what you do with the money. But that's not necessarily what some of the members want to do. Some of the members may prefer to tell us, send them money there, and that's a decision council will make. So we'll draft a little procedure with guidelines and a mission statement, which will in fact meet what Monsieur Leroux was saying. And then we'll start with that. But instead of making something complicated that's 10 pages, we'll just keep it brief for now, and we'll start with that.
Thank you. I just have two more questions. So this is saying that it wouldn't be eligible for for-profit services. Does that mean that I can't hire people to run a festival for me or purchase advertising in Castleman?
Monsieur le Président, Madame Lajoie, I'll answer your question by saying this. The money can't go to a for-profit organization. So you can't subsidize or send that money to an organization that's making money with that.
It's just because I want to pay somebody to run a festival in Castleman. That's what I want to do with my money. And I also want to purchase an advertising board through a partnership with the company, and then all that advertising is going to be used to fund all my committees moving forward. So I'm trying to invest in advertising that will continue to pay for
Monsieur le Président, Madame Lajoie, council will make that decision. I can't really reply to your question right now.
Okay. And then could we access the $200,000 in full this year? No. We can't get it before?
Monsieur le Président, Madame Lajoie, no.
Okay, perfect. Those are all my questions. Thanks.
Sorry. Merci, Madame Lajoie. Monsieur Lefebvre.
Excuse-moi. Merci, Mr. President. Thank you for the comments. I know in the original draft policy, I mean, the whole idea was it was mentioning third parties, and I understand your position in terms of insurance. If it's going to municipalities, then it'll be their responsibility. Their responsibility is delegated to the local municipality. So I have no problem with that, and having des grandes lignes, comme vous avez mentionné, very acceptable. I know at the last meeting of council on the 28th, we said basically in the resolution that the mayors had to request or send a letter to the counties to either transfer or have those funds allocated to them immediately. So I am assuming, you know, that's the whole process that will be utilized based on the resolution of the June the 28th. We have to make a request. It's going to the municipalities. So as far as I'm concerned, there is no third party at the county level, only at the local level if they want to do that. Is that correct, Mr. Parisien?
Monsieur le Président, Monsieur Lefebvre, yes and no. Like some of you are asking to have the money at your place, others don't want that. They want the money to be spent here.
No, correct. But we have until, according to the resolution, the end of November to make that request if we want to transfer and reserve or for the municipality or those monies transferred immediately like Mr. Zant and Mr. Kirby.
Mr. Warden, Mr. Lefebvre, correct.
But correct. How can it be correct? It's not in place yet.
Well, we have a resolution right now that says that we can transfer if it's requested right now or by reserve by the end of November. That is the resolution of the meeting of council on the 28th of June. I can read the section basically. Be it further resolved that if a mayor wishes to transfer his or her 2023 cultural fund amount to their local municipality or to the reserve, that a letter signed by the mayor be sent to the United County's clerk prior to November 30th, requesting the action be undertaken. So it's a letter by the mayor, not necessarily by council.
Right, that's what I did.
By the local municipal council, not the...
Monsieur le Président.
Monsieur le Président, membre du Conseil, Mme Cadieux et moi, on va drafter quelque chose qu'on va ramener à fin septembre, puis on espère que ça va être adopté, mais on écoutez ce que vous avez à dire, là, ça va refléter ce que vous voulez. Si on a des problématiques, on les réglera à ce moment-là. Ça sera rapporté en octobre, puis ça sera réglé. Puis si on a besoin d'une réunion additionnelle, on le fera.
On en a une par mois. On va durer un petit peu plus longtemps si on a moins de discuter. On ne fera pas un autre meeting spécial pour ça. On passera 2 heures s'il faut. Monsieur Laviolette.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. C'était une clarification, justement, que je cherchais, et je pense que M. Lefebvre il a clarifié ça. La lettre venant de M. Leroux, je voulais savoir si ça venait de son conseil ou de M. Leroux.
Oui, ça vient de moi, la lettre.
OK. C'est ça que je voulais clarifier. Je voulais m'assurer que j'étais pas obligé de passer au travers de mon conseil pour envoyer cette lettre-là. Ça fait que, merci beaucoup. Merci, M. le Président.
Merci, M. Laviolette. M. Leroux, après ça, on passe à la résolution. Non, c'est bon? OK, ça va me prendre une résolution pour mandater l'administration à nous amener une politique ou une ébauche. Good. M. Lefebvre, appuyé de M. Zant. Tous en faveur? Sur le compte? Adopté. On s'en va à l'item 8. Oui, 8.2, service d'urgence, 8.2.1. Le rapport SU-004-2023, l'aperçu du Eastern Ontario Warden Caucus de la situation des services paramédicaux en 2023. Donc, il y a 2 attachements, 3 attachements. Est-ce qu'il y a des questions concernant les attachements? Any questions in regards to services? Aucune. Qu'il soit résolu que le Conseil reçoive la mise à jour du rapport global de Eastern Ontario Warden Caucus de 2019 sur la situation des services paramédicaux, ainsi que les recommandations envoyées au vérificateur général de l'Ontario pour résoudre les problèmes identifiés par le dit rapport. Proposeur-appuyeur. M. Kirby, appuyé de Mme Lajoie. Tous en faveur? Contre? Adopté. Ça, c'était right here. Item number 8.3, Planning and Forestry. 8.3.1, report number UF-003-2023, potable water quality consent application. There is also an attachment, or two attachments, in regards to the request. Any comments on the reports? Any questions? Mr. Kirby?
Thank you, Mr. President. I've got a problem, and I'm very sad about it. This mother and father are aging. Their son would like to have sever a lot beside them to be there. Apparently, Mr. Provost can enlighten that, we're not eligible to sever that lot because the water don't meet the criteria. These people have been drinking this water for 40 years or so. I need help. How can we arrange that these people can have their son in a home? At the township level, I'm willing to take the responsibility of that particular severance. Is there some way we can discuss this and come up with a reasonable solution?
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. I'll go with Mr. Leroux because he had his hand. Mr. Leroux.
Thank you very much, Monsieur le Président. So just clarification questions. We're dealing with this right now because East Hawkesbury sent a resolution. Has there been an application by this family to sever a lot? Monsieur Prévost?
Mr. Warden, Mr. Leroux, no, there has not.
Okay. So the proper process would be then they apply, and then based on current guidelines, they would be turned down. But they still have the option to take that to the tribunal, LPAT, correct?
That's correct.
And if they go to the tribunal, if East Hawkesbury feels strongly about supporting them, East Hawkesbury could pass a resolution as support to the proponent to go to the tribunal and request that. Is that correct?
Partly, yes. The municipality could basically hire a planner or a lawyer to defend their position.
If the municipality wanted to appeal, though,
yeah.
right? But if the proponent wants to appeal, then East Hawkesbury could always provide a letter of support to their cause, and then the tribunal would make the decision. And then if the tribunal was in favor, therefore they're taking on the responsibility of allowing this to happen. Because right now, if the United Counties was to proceed and sever a lot, then we would take on all the liability if a problem in the future occurred. Is that correct?
Partly, yes. Basically, one of our roles as the approval authority, as explained in the report, is to ensure that the well-being of current and future residents of the counties are met, and this consent application would not be approved by this approval authority. However, as you mentioned, Mr. Leroux, the proponent could certainly file an appeal to the tribunal, and the tribunal would base their decisions on the reports and also the testimony and the policies in place, basically to render a decision.
Okay, merci.
Madame Lajoie, après ça, Monsieur Zant.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm curious, the family currently on this lot drinks that water?
Yes, they've been drinking for 40 years.
So does that mean that all the area around this family you can never develop there? Like, is that how this works? I just don't understand how provincially this family is allowed to drink this water, yet we can't build on an existing well system. I just don't understand, like, how far does this water stand under the water? And could East Hawkesbury never develop because of this well system?
Mr. Warden, Mrs. Lajoie, no, that's not the case at all. I mean, the requirement to provide that there be potable water on the new lot is based on the Planning Act. It triggers by the Planning Act. Existing lots of record, existing properties don't have to adhere to this. It's just whenever we're creating new lots. It might only be specific to this property. We've had elsewhere properties in East Hawkesbury that have provided the hydrogeological study, and the water quality is perfectly fine. So it's basically depends in which area and different parameters that come into play. But what triggers this is the creation of a new lot. That's what the difference is.
And then in terms of potential litigation, who would potentially, I mean, I don't think the people who would be severing the lot, I don't think the son would take us to court. So is it like if the son moves out, somebody moves in, would they take us to court? Like who would take us, who would cause the litigation? I just, you know, I find it a little unreasonable and very strange that a family owns land and they're drinking this water, yet their own son cannot continue drinking that water, yet the government's not doing anything to protect them from the water. I just find this very nuanced, and personally, I support the severance of the land. I think it's their land. I think people should be allowed to sever land for their family, especially considering the fact that the population's aging and these people need help. And there's no money in the counties to help seniors as much as we can, and this is a solution to help one family. So that's just my 2 cents.
M'enlève avec M. Kirby, là, parce que j'avais dit à quelqu'un d'autre tantôt, mais je me reviendrai avec M. Kirby.
Thank you for your comments. I appreciate them. I feel the same way. If there was a house already built on a said property, and there was a well, and we wanted to sever it, would we be testing the water before we sever the house on this property? Did I explain that right, or I could be mixed up there? I'm sorry.
I think, yeah, Mr. Warden, Mr. Kirby, I think I get what you're getting at, is whenever we're creating, the application is to create an additional residential lot. That's where it triggers.
Yes.
The existing house and the well, I mean, it's been there for a long time. It's just the requirements kick in whenever there's an application to create an additional lot. If we know that there's not potable water on the lot, then you need to provide proof that you will be able to do so before you're able to create an additional lot. Create an additional problem. This needs to be addressed at the consent application.
Okay, you said quite a bit there, and I'll make it a little simpler for me and for anybody else. There's a house on a lot, okay, and it's on 50 acres, we'll say. We want to sever the house, and it's in the rural area. We want to sever that house off that 50 acres. Do we have to do a water sample?
Mr. Warden, Mr. Kirby, as I just explained, if the purpose is to create an additional residential lot, yes, you have to do a water test.
Not a sample. That house on the 50 acres, the lot would need to meet the water guidance to be able to be severed.
Not for the existing house, Mr. Kirby, for the new lot, because you're severing from something.
I don't think I've explained the right way. There's 50 acres. There's a house on it, okay? There's a house on it, and there's a well. I want to sever the house off the 50 acres. Do I need to give a water test?
Is the purpose to build an additional house on the remainder of the 50 acres?
The house is already built.
Okay, so you're severing.
The house is built on the 50 acres.
If you take this off.
If you're creating a new lot, you need to do an hydrogeological study and provide proof that there's potable water. Unless I'm not understanding correctly your question.
Go ahead, Mr.
If you're separating, for example, you keep the house with the 2 acres and you separate the 48 acres,
yeah.
The house, you don't need to do anything. If on the 48 acres you decide you want to build a house there, then you will need to do testing on that 48 acres. But if you're selling it out just as farmland, you're fine.
I don't need to test the house.
No, because it's already existing. So as long as, the other 48 acres, as long as you're not, if you decide to put a house on that 48 acres, that's where you're getting caught because you're making it a residential lot. But if... Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to take up your time. Just one more short question. I have 40 acres, okay? There's a house there, right? I go over a little ways over and I build another house, right? Can I sever one of them, can I sever one of the houses off?
Can I just add something to that?
So just so I'm clear, you're talking about building a second dwelling,
There's a second dwelling there.
building a second dwelling on existing property, which currently in our law, in the Planning Act, is allowed to do. You can build a secondary dwelling on a property, but you cannot sever that off later on.
Thank you.
So it'll always be two properties on the one lot.
Thank you. Anyways,
Sorry for the confusion in my response, Mr. Warden.
Monsieur Zand, then Madame Lajoie. Oh, sorry. Monsieur Zand, then Madame Lajoie.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Look, don't take this personally, because we know that your job is the rules are the rules, the Planning Act is the Planning Act. And that's your job. And there's no one on this table that doesn't respect it. So I just want you to know that before I start. But there has to be some logicality placed on certain things. As Mr. Kirby was saying, and Madame Lajoie, the son wants to sever the land to build a house. He's been drinking that water since the day he was born, most likely. This is the water. If it's not good enough to build another house, why on earth are we permitting the residents to keep drinking the water that they're drinking now? This is where I'm not understanding the logical part in this. It's a severed piece of land. We just literally just for officiality, we just want to say, and we're going to draw an invisible line, and we're going to say you can build a house over here. If we start doing these things, and I know that we're following the provincial rules, but I know so many people in Clarence Rockland that are on wells that are not drinkable, that had building permits to sever land and build houses, and they drink bottled water or cook with bottled water or whatever the case is. So at the end of the day, can we not just sever the land and put something in title to protect us on these kinds of things, to say the water is deemed most likely not drinkable, even though we haven't told anybody else they can't drink it. I'm confused about this, because someone's drinking it now. If it was that bad, there would have been like a boil advisory or do not drink this water. So I don't know if you could maybe elaborate on that a little bit. Or Monsieur Parisien, I don't know, I'll leave it to the warden.
Monsieur Prévost. Après ça, je m'en allais à Monsieur Parisien.
Mr. Warden, Mr. Zant, I think my report is quite clear with regards to your question, Mr. Zant. We do have a responsibility, a very important responsibility, whenever we're creating a new lot, to basically follow not only the official plan policies, but the section 5124 to 5324 of the Planning Act. And basically just putting an advisory on title it doesn't make any sense. It's not appropriate. We're still responsible whenever we're approving new development to ensure the well-being of current and future residents. And knowing full well that there's not any potable water on the lot, it's simply not responsible from an approval authority point of view.
But there is. They're drinking it.
No, we're talking about the creation of an additional lot.
On
not the existing lot. We're
right.
creating an additional lot.
On the same, most likely, la même veine of drinking water. So you're saying the new property's drinking water would not be good enough, but the current water from the same well would be okay to continue drinking?
I'm definitely not saying this,
okay.
Mr.
I just want to...
No, definitely not. We have no control over the existing lot, the existing house, the existing well. We have control over what's being proposed.
On va revenir au Conseil, là. Monsieur Parisien.
Monsieur le Président, membre du Conseil, moi, je voulais dire, on ne peut pas vous expliquer la logique derrière ça. Elle s'explique d'elle-même, OK? Puis notre job à nous, c'est de suivre ce qui est déjà prescrit dans la législation. Donc, pour nous, notre job, c'est de protéger le Conseil d'une mauvaise décision pour ne pas s'exposer à une poursuite. Ceci étant dit, c'est votre décision. If you feel that the logic in there doesn't make any logic and you wish to overturn it, that's your decision, you can do it. But you also have to know that if something happens, then we're becoming liable. At the end of the day, that's what it is. So it becomes whether or not council supports the recommendation or they don't. That's as simple as that. And if you don't support it, the sun will rise tomorrow and it's all good.
I'll get to you in time. Monsieur Lefebvre, il a pas eu son tour. Fait que je veux donner la chance à Monsieur Lefebvre d'avoir son tour. Monsieur Lefebvre.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Puis merci pour les commentaires. Everyone's comments. It is a dilemma, absolutely. I understand the position of Mr. Prévost because he is the approving authority. And matter of fact, if it even went to the planning board based on law, I'd be surprised if they would approve such a consent application. And putting in consent conditions basically would probably be rejected anyway, because you can't really maybe enforce them completely if you put a conditions of consent or notice on title. So it becomes a bit of a dilemma. I'm just wondering, and I understand Mr. Kirby's dilemma and all the comments that were made here today, is it a possibility, and I'm just talking hypothetically, that if a zone change was made to allow a secondary dwelling on the same land and let the future take care of itself, if that would be a possibility. In other words, to your municipality to apply for a zoning change to have accessory building. In this case, it would bypass the planning authority here at County Council, would be at a zoning amendment level to get permission to build a secondary dwelling on the same parcel of land. I'm just talking hypothetically, and maybe a solution, a temporary solution, and let the future take care of itself. Thank you.
Monsieur Kirby.
Les commentaires de monsieur le maire de Hawkesbury, est-ce qu'on peut faire ça?
Monsieur le Président, Monsieur Kirby, vous pouvez adopter le règlement que vous voulez à votre municipalité. Mais ceci étant dit, il demeure le fait que, éventuellement, le propriétaire va vouloir détacher la maison de la propriété. C'est une solution à court terme, ce n'est pas une solution à long terme. Il va vouloir avoir une hypothèque, il va vouloir avoir ci, il va vouloir avoir ça. C'est une solution très, très band-aid, là, mais...
OK. Moi, je ne veux pas mettre le Conseil dans le trouble pour aucun... for anything that's not reasonable. Can I take that particular... cette partie-là dans les mains de Hawkesbury-Est seulement?
Monsieur le Président, Monsieur Kirby, le zonage est fait entièrement à votre municipalité.
Je comprends, mais il n'y a pas moyen qu'on peut transférer ce droit-là pour cette situation-là à Hawkesbury-Est.
Monsieur le Président, Monsieur Kirby, je ne suis pas certain que je comprends votre question. Non.
OK. Yes.
Clarify it.
If you
Clarify it, Monsieur Leroux, comme ça, I'm going to Madame Lajoie. Absolument, that's way.
I got it.
Oh, sorry.
In regards, I believe your question is, can the approval authority be transferred to East Hawkesbury for this one case? I believe one of the options is to transfer approval to East Hawkesbury, but I believe it's not for one case, it's for all future cases. So if you're comfortable, or it would take a resolution from East Hawkesbury asking to transfer approval authority, I would support that if you guys want to take on that responsibility. But I think it's a
very heavy.
It's a very heavy burden that Rockland, I believe, transferred back to the counties because, or Clarence Rockland transferred back because it is a heavy responsibility.
That is not the idea. The idea is to take back this situation, and that's it.
I think the final answer is you have to be responsible for your own official plan and not be part of the United Counties of Prescott-Russell if that's the route you want to take. Am I right? C'est le même, M. Leroux, qu'on est en train de l'expliquer? Because this is not just one case. He's got to be liable for the rest of his township and not put just a portion of his request. M. Prévost?
Mr. Warden, members of council, if I may be of assistance in trying to resolve this matter, the simplest way is simply to deny the request by the township. Let the applicant apply for a consent, we'll deny it, and they can appeal to the Ontario Tribunal. That way, County Council liberates itself of any responsibility. That's the simplest way of doing this. We follow guidelines, we follow the OP policy, we're in accordance with the Planning Act. Let the applicant deal with this, not County Council.
It's not my style. We're elected by the people. I like to help the people. And what you're saying, Mr. Prevost, is just hand it over to the people and let them go with it. It's not my style.
Got to move on. We understand the situation. Madame Lajoie, and then we'll move on.
So that's exactly what I wanted to say, is that this is like a democratic process, and mayors are elected to represent their people, and this is all Mr. Kirby's been trying to do. So I'm wondering if we could put a motion forward to ask, and I think the issue here, if I'm listening, is that there's a lack of information as to other processes. Well, no, I know his report is very clear, but I mean for Mr. Kirby, how could we help Mr. Kirby access the resources of other ideas that he could take? No?
It's at his municipal level, but at the county level, it's extremely clear. Cannot be accepted. Monsieur Laviolette, puis après ça, on passe au vote.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. En autant que je suis concerné, tantôt, on a mentionné, puis ça arrive souvent dans des situations que des fermiers, exemple, ils vont vouloir bâtir une maison sur leur terrain, puis ces choses de même, puis ça allait arriver dans le passé. Mais dès que tu veux détacher le terrain, c'est impossible, parce que cette maison-là, elle peut être bâtie, ils peuvent bâtir une autre maison sur le terrain. Mais éventuellement, quand ils vont vouloir la détacher, c'est là que le problème est. Puis c'est une loi de la province. Puis M. Prévost, je pense qu'il a bien dit que c'est sûr que ça va aller au ministère. Puis le ministère, il va décider autrement parce que c'est un règlement. Mais politique, c'est facile pour nous autres, je pense, de décider, oui, on va vous laisser vous installer là. Mais il faut prendre la responsabilité aussi de vivre avec la situation.
On est au point aussi qu'on décide si on accepte la proposition et la recommandation de M. Prévost concernant cette demande ou ben si on la refuse. Ça me prend un proposeur et un appuyeur. I need a mover now. Mr. Kirby. No, the resolution is going to have to read that you want to move against what Mr. Prevost's recommendation is. Correct? Comment est-ce que tu vois l'interprète?
Il y a trois options dans le rapport.
Okay.
Mr. Warden, there's 3 options in the report.
Option 1, that council rejects the Township of East Hawkesbury's request. That's option 1. Option 2, that the approval authority for consent within East Hawkesbury be transferred to the Township of East Hawkesbury. Pas une bonne, mais c'est correct. That every consent application in the Township of East Hawkesbury which demonstrates that the water quality does not meet the health parameters established by the province be presented directly to the United Counties Council for a decision. So, there's 3 options. You want to take the full responsibility? Option 2, that the approval authority for consent within East Hawkesbury be transferred to the Township of East Hawkesbury. Ça serait le choix la plus simple.
Oh.
Go ahead. Ah, écoute, là, moi, je suis aussi mélangé avec vous autres.
Oui. Merci, Monsieur le Président. In regards to option 2, that the approval authority for consent within East Hawkesbury be transferred to the Township of East Hawkesbury, we can't do that because East Hawkesbury hasn't made the request to have that authority transferred to them, right? It's an option. Like we could give that direction and saying that council will do that, but East Hawkesbury Council will have to accept it at their end. So I think if that's the route that we're interested in doing, my suggestion would be that East Hawkesbury pass a resolution that they want the approval authority at the local level, Hein? No. The original resolution was in regards to this case. They wanted us to support la demande. So if they want approval authority, then it has to come from East Hawkesbury, and then once that's in front of us, then we'll proceed with that direction. But I think that's you know, but then again, you're becoming the approval authority for all future in your services in your municipality.
Go ahead,
We're gonna end this
Mr.
way.
Kirby.
We're not taking responsibility for all the planning issues. We will take that particular one, but obviously we can't. We've been over this once or twice or 3 times.
So here's what I'm going to recommend. Let's use a resolution that's at hand right now. Be it resolved that the Council of the United Counties of Prescott-Russell rejects the Township of East Hawkesbury's request. Ask your resident to do the application and to follow the proper procedures. Right now, there's no proper procedures in place in regards to what he's asking. Right? Fait que est-ce que j'ai un proposeur concernant qu'on rejette la demande de East Hawkesbury? Monsieur Leroux, appuyé de Monsieur Laviolette. Now it's rejecting your request. You can't create the lot. Let them apply and then go through the process, and then they can go to the tribunal.
Okay.
That's going to be the only route. Because you don't want to absorb the official plan for your township for the rest of your...
No, and I don't want to put anything on you,
On the
putting the
counties.
responsabilité ces autres municipalités non plus.
OK, on a un proposeur, on a un appuyeur. Question, commentaire. Monsieur Lefebvre.
Oui, juste un commentaire, Monsieur Prévost. Excuse-moi, Monsieur Prévost, juste une question. Excuse-moi, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur Prévost, une question. Avant qu'une requête est faite pour transférer des pouvoirs à une municipalité, est-ce que la municipalité doit avoir certains critères d'éligibilité pour être capable d'adresser toutes les demandes, que ce soit de subdivision, des consent applications et tout? Parce que, si je ne me trompe pas, dans le passé, quand il y a eu des transferts, il y avait quand même des normes que la municipalité devait respecter avant d'accepter ce transfert-là. Est-ce que j'ai raison ou tort?
Monsieur le Président, Monsieur Lefebvre, c'est une très, très bonne question. Oui, il y a des critères en place, s'assurer qu'il y a un département de planning, il y a du staff approprié pour faire les recommandations des... Oui, il y a plusieurs critères qui doivent être respectés.
C'est facile quand tu as travaillé ces 2 bords de la médaille, hein? Avoir des bonnes questions. OK, autre question, autre commentaire? Monsieur Leroux.
Merci, Mr. President. Just to reiterate, Mr. Kirby, you can support your residents, and your municipality can support the resident by providing them with a support letter that they can proceed to the tribunal with. So if you and your council or any other mayor, if you felt that the need to support this cause, can provide a letter of support that the proponent will be able to take to the tribunal.
On passe au vote. Ceux qui sont en faveur de la résolution. 1, 2, 3. Ceux qui sont contre. Adopté. 8.3.2, le rapport UF 004-2023, Approval of the County Official Plan. Again, there's 2 attachments. Be it resolved that report UF 004-2023 be received for information purpose only. Proposeur, M. Lefebvre, seconded by, appuyé de M. Leroux. M. Lefebvre, question?
Merci, M. le Président. Et une question à M. Prévost. Peut-être vous savez où je m'en vais avec ma question concernant la zone d'inondation et que le rapport qui avait été fait en conséquence. Pouvez-vous peut-être me renseigner un petit peu plus concernant ce qui s'est passé sur ce dossier-là et le plan officiel et les options? Parce que si je ne me trompe pas aussi, M. Zant ou Rockland, ils ont commencé ou entamé peut-être, ou on a adopté une résolution dernièrement pour une étude sur la zone d'inondation. Si je ne me trompe pas, M. Zant, c'est ça. Mais en tout cas, je voulais juste faire une relation de tout ça et peut-être M. Zant peut peut-être nous renseigner et M. Prévost me renseigner moi-même. Merci.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur Lefebvre, tout d'abord, j'aimerais juste remercier le Conseil du support et de tout l'appui au cours du processus d'approbation du plan officiel. Comme vous savez, l'année dernière, presque un an, jour pour jour, là, au mois de septembre, le Conseil adoptait le nouveau plan officiel. Puis, je suis content de vous soumettre que toutes les modifications qui avaient été adoptées par le Conseil ont été conservées sont dans la décision du ministère. Donc, ça, je suis très, très content de ça. Puis, les 5 modifications sont dites très, très mineures. Là, puis 2 de celles-là, celles-ci ont été suite à une demande qu'on a faite par la suite. Donc, pour répondre à votre question, Monsieur Lefebvre, ce qui est contenu dans le plan officiel présentement, c'était l'ébauche de la plaine inondable le long de la rivière des Outaouais. Comme vous le savez, la communication que vous envoyez, il y a eu des changements par rapport à l'ébauche et la version finale. Malheureusement, il y a un petit peu plus de plaine inondable sur une propriété là, dans la ville de Hawkesbury. Donc, ce nouveau changement va être reflété parce que, comme j'ai indiqué dans mon rapport, we'll need to do an amendment no matter what to the county official plan based on new bills that were passed over the last few months. So we'll take this opportunity to basically reflect the new floodplain mapping in the revised official plan. So and basically the floodplain study that was completed was throughout the entire territory of Prescott-Russell. So it includes the city of Clarence-Rockland all the way up to Parc Voyageur in East Hawkesbury. So, but the biggest changes are, unfortunately,
Yes, it was unfortunate because initially the preliminary report basically removed the floodplain from that area we were talking about, and now it just basically reconfirmed what was there, but it's based simply on an imaginary line at the time of the 1 in 100-year floodplain zone. But now we have actual mapping, I guess, or that reconfirms the hypothesis, basically the hypothesis of the 1 in 100 mapping. So
yeah, the previous floodplain was based on
elevations.
On elevations and iron drawn on a piece of paper. Now that the existing one, the new one is the real floodplain. Yeah. It's a little bit smaller than what it was, but at least there's some science behind this.
Okay, and I made a comment on Mr. Zant. Maybe Mr. Zant has some comments regarding the issue because there was a resolution from his municipality. So, merci encore, Monsieur Prévost.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, Monsieur Prévost, Monsieur Lefebvre. Honnêtement, écoute, 3 floods in 6 years, now we're no longer at the 100-year, right? So I know our maps have changed a little bit as well, but I don't have the document in front of me, so I can't necessarily go through specifics. But no, and you know what? And the individuals who live by the river understand that these things are going to change from time to time. I fully support the resolution and the plan that's by the UCPR, because at the end of the day, those flood plains change over time as well. Not only that, too, I know we have a certain area that I think there's hydrological plans that are done on slope studies as well, which continue to change and morph over the years as well. So I don't have any more comments on that, except for, I support the plan, and I know we're working hard to try to identify those as well.
Merci, messieurs. Donc, proposé par M. Lefebvre, puis de M. Leroux. Autres questions, commentaires? All those in favor to receive? Against? Carried. 8.4, travaux publics. 8.4.1, rapport TP-010-2023, demande de réduction de limite de vitesse pour une portion du chemin de comté numéro 11 qui se trouve être le chemin de Casburn. Vous avez 3 rapports. Un annexe, un rapport et une résolution de la municipalité de Champlain. Commentaires sur le rapport? Questions? M. Leroux?
Merci, Monsieur le Président. On a eu l'opportunité de discuter ce dossier-là, and I appreciate that, you were pushing to follow the Canton de Champlain's recommendation. But I will have to agree with the administration on this one and remain status quo. Merci.
Autre commentaire? Si le Conseil s'en va sur ce pencher de pensée-là, ça serait peut-être important que nous autres, à la municipalité, qu'on réagisse pour une pancarte de vitesse, parce que je peux comprendre le raisonnement, je peux comprendre très bien la position de M. Bouchard. Je lis le rapport, je regarde le 80 km/h, si on rajoute 10 ça fait 88. Dans ton rapport, la moyenne, c'est de 94 km/h qui qui se trouve à la vitesse de ce chemin-là, donc c'est un petit peu plus que 15 au-dessus de la limite. Peut-être que si jamais le Conseil adopterait à la municipalité de Champlain d'aller avec un système c'est un radar détecteur, là, une caméra, là. On va travailler là-dessus concernant... Mais pas la caméra, c'est juste...
un radar de vitesse.
Un radar de vitesse, c'est ça. Fait que ça sera quelque chose qu'on pourra ramener. Donc, commentaire des membres du Conseil. Excusez, M. Lefebvre.
Oui, merci, M. le Président. Et comme vous avez mentionné, la question devient toujours la question de mettre en vigueur ces vitesses-là. Puis il y a des options qui existent, qu'on a vues dernièrement à la convention de la MO et des caméras, qui est une possibilité parce qu'il faut faire des ententes avec des chemins, avec des comtés unis qui ils transfèrent à la municipalité comme telle, locale. Alors, c'est des choses qu'on peut adresser, je pense, quand ça vient. On peut mettre des limites, mais c'est question de mettre en vigueur tout le temps. Merci.
M. Bouchard.
Monsieur le Président, membre du Conseil, oui, effectivement, je crois que Russell et Clarence-Rockland sont présentement en train de regarder un des programmes pour des speed enforcement cameras. Donc, à ce moment ici, je sais que je travaille étroitement avec M. Laplante à la municipalité de Russell pour voir qu'est-ce qu'on va faire, les prochaines étapes au niveau du Conseil ici, pour le pouvoir délégation sur nos chemins. Puis, c'est quand même un long processus, mais c'est un processus quand même assez facile, mais long.
Merci beaucoup. Résolution, donc, si je lis la résolution en place, c'est entendu que le département des travaux publics a reçu une résolution datée du 22 juin 2023 du canton de Champlain demandant de réduire la limite de vitesse sur une partie du chemin de comté numéro 11, connu sous le chemin de Casburn, entre le chemin de la comté 17 jusqu'aux Almaux de Casburn de 24 km. Non, excusez. De 80 km par heure à 60 km par heure. Et entendu que le rapport TP-010-2023 a été soumis au Conseil identifiant que la limite de vitesse existante est appropriée au contexte de la route. Qu'il soit résolu que le Conseil approuve l'option 2, comme indiqué dans le rapport TP-010-2023. Proposé par M. Leroux, appuyé de M. Zent. Ceux qui sont en faveur? Ceux qui sont contre? Adopté. 8.4.2, le rapport TP-012-2023, restrictions temporaires de stationnement. Non, attends une minute, là, demande de stationnement. Non, excusez. 8.4.2, le rapport TP-011-2023, demande d'interdiction de stationnement le long du chemin de comté numéro 10. Ça, c'est à la rue Main-Ouest à Ventlequille, devant le terrain de la foire agricole de Ventlequille. Encore, il y a des rapports attachés. Est-ce qu'il y a des questions concernant les rapports? Aucune. Entendu que le département des travaux publics a... Ah bien, M. Bouchard, oui donc.
Monsieur le Président, membre du Conseil, I just want to inform you that at the next council or the next request that we receive from one of the township, we'll put this in the consent items instead of writing a full report addressing council. It's just a formality at this point, and basically, usually the township, anyways, enforces this bylaw either way. So it's at the township level kind of thing, but it's on a county road.
Understood. Whereas the Public Works Department received Resolution 2023-300 dated June 22nd, 2023 from the Township of Champlain requesting the restricts parking along County Road 10 in front of the Ventlequille Fairgrounds and the West houses up to 128 County Road 10. Be it resolved that Council approves Option 2 as stated in the report TP-011-2023. Mover and seconder, moved by M. Lefebvre, seconded by M. Laviolette. All those in favor? Those against? Carried. Item number 8.4.3, report TP-012-2023, temporary parking restriction. Again, there's two attachments in regards to the requests, whereas the Public Work Department received Resolution 2023-300 dated June 22nd, 2023 from the Township of Champlain requesting the temporary restrictions parking along the north side of County Road 10 in front of the Van Cleef Fairgrounds, and whereas the Public Works Director recommends amending the parking bylaw 2015-14 not only for the Township of Champlain's request received under Resolution 2023-300, but for any other future temporary parking restrictions requested, deemed acceptable by the Directors of Public Works or his delegates. And whereas the Public Works Director is requesting Council to delegate the authority to authorize temporary parking restrictions for special events, construction activities, or emergencies, be it resolved that Council approves option 2, as stated in the report TP-012-2023. Mover and a seconder. Mr. Kirby, seconded by Madame Lajoie. Question? Questions? All those in favor? Those against? Carried. Hey, Monsieur Bouchard?
I just want to go ahead, but at the end, there's a bylaw in respect to this resolution exactly. Il y a un processus en place pour faire une demande à moi comme tel, si vous voulez mettre un permis pas un permis, mais un stationnement temporaire, no parking dans un village pour soit un événement ou quoi que ce soit. Donc, ça va être beaucoup plus rapide au niveau de venir au conseil pour un stationnement temporaire, disons.
Fait que tu vas faire la modification au règlement 200.
Elle est déjà présentée dans le règlement. Je veux juste informer le conseil qu'ils vont pouvoir maintenant m'avertir s'ils veulent l'avoir.
All good. 8.5, services sociaux. 8.5.1, le rapport SS-003-2023, rapport de l'année 2022 sur le plan décennal de logement abordable et de lutte contre l'itinérance pour les comtés unis de Prescott-Russell. Encore là, il y a des rapports attachés. Qu'il soit résolu que le Conseil reçoive le rapport de 2022 sur le plan décennal de logement abordable et de lutte contre l'itinérance dans le comté unis de Prescott-Russell. Proposeur appuyeur, M. Lefebvre, appuyé de M. Zent. Question, discussion sur les rapports. Mr. Lefebvre.
Merci, M. le Président, et bonjour, Mme Miette. Et merci pour le rapport. Ça donne beaucoup d'informations pour nous, les maires ou pour les municipalités, qu'est-ce que les services qui sont disponibles, l'assistance qui peut être donnée. Alors, j'apprécie vraiment le rapport comme tel pour donner cette information-là et accès à ces argents-là pour les personnes. Alors, merci encore, Mme Miette, pour le rapport.
Merci, M. Lefebvre. Mme Miette.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, Monsieur Lefebvre, si je peux juste rajouter, en 2023, il y a eu beaucoup de changements. Donc, le rapport l'année prochaine, je pense qu'il va être beaucoup plus volumineux. On a eu quand même des beautiful initiatives this year. So I think some members of council already received a presentation from our Housing Services Coordinator. So this will be added in our next report next year.
If I may add, Mr. Warden, yes, I've had the opportunity to talk on several occasions with Madame Séguin, who's doing an excellent job. There seems to be a difference of how we calculate the number of homeless people, basically, because there are different circumstances. Because I know recently in the town of Hawkesbury, one of the community paramedics had a different calculation, I think, compared to what was being said. So it would be nice to clarify, but I want to appreciate Madame Séguin, Nadia Séguin, and what she's doing and her accessibility when there are particular situations. S'il vous plaît, transmettez ce message-là pour moi. Merci.
I will. Thank you.
Merci, Mme Miette. Donc, M. Leroux.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Just for a suggestion for next year's report, is it possible to do a comparison from year to year to see that are we going in the right direction? Are we falling behind? A lot of information, a lot of great initiatives, mais j'aimerais ça, be able quick look and say, yeah, as our population grows, we can see that, it's stable or it's going down or it's going up. So just, if it's possible to just be able to compare year after year. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Autre question, commentaire? All those in favor? Against? Carried. Item numéro 9, période de questions au chef de département. Pas de questions?
I'm just trying to figure out who I want to pick on. No, it's all good.
All good? Ça va le thème numéro 10, règlement 2023-31 à 2023-33. Donc, c'est des règlements concernant qu'il soit résolu que les règlements suivants soient adoptés par le Conseil des Comtés unis de Prescott-Russell après 3 lectures. 2023-31 pour autoriser la vente de terres excédentaires dans la municipalité de la Nation. Règlement 2023-32 pour autoriser la vente de terres excédentaires dans la municipalité de la Nation. Et le règlement 2023-33 pour modifier le règlement 2015-14 étant un règlement pour réglementer le stationnement sur les routes ou sur les zones de route. Proposeur, appuyeur. M. Laviolette, appuyé de Mme Lajoie. Read the first time. All those in favor. Read the second time. All those in favor. Read the third time. All those in favor. Carried. Item numéro 11, à huis clos. Il y a 2 sujets. Qu'il soit résolu que le Conseil poursuive à huis clos à 11h28 pour les points suivants. Procès verbal de la réunion ordinaire du Conseil à huis clos en date du 28 juin 2023 et acquisition potentielle d'un terrain boisé dans la municipalité de la Nation en vertu du paragraphe 233, paragraphe 2, item 2, section C de la loi de 2001 sur les municipalités. Proposeur, appuyeur. M. Lefebvre, appuyé de Mme Lajoie. Tous en faveur. Contre, adopté. J'ai une deuxième, celle-là. C'est quoi la deuxième? Donc, on est de retour de notre huis clos. Donc, il y a 2 résolutions à lire. Madame Casieux.
La résolution pour 11.1. Be it resolved that the closed session minutes of the regular council meeting of June 28, 2023 be adopted as presented.
Proposeur appuyeur. Monsieur Lefebvre, appuyé de Monsieur Zent. All those in favor? Against? Carried. Et résolution pour l'acquisition potentielle d'un terrain. Madame Cadieux.
Qu'il soit résolu que le directeur du département d'urbanisme et de foresterie soit autorisé à 1. Conclure une entente d'achat pour une propriété boisée de 43 acres à l'est du village de Limoges, conformément aux modalités indiquées en huis clos. Et 2. Disposer d'une parcelle boisée totalisant approximativement 8 acres appartenant au comté de Prescott-Russell, situé à l'est du village de Limoges, conformément aux modalités indiquées à huis clos. Qu'il soit également résolu que le directeur du département d'urbanisme et de foresterie soit autorisé à conclure une entente d'achat-vente pour une propriété boisée de 37 acres dans la municipalité de la Nation au nord-est de Castleman, conformément aux modalités indiquées en huis clos.
Merci beaucoup. Proposeur, appuyeur. Monsieur Lefebvre, appuyé de Madame Lajoie. Tous en faveur? Contre? Adopté. Merci, Madame Cadieux. Item numéro 12, règlement de ratification. Règlement 2023-34. Qu'il soit résolu que le Conseil adopte le règlement 2023-34 afin de ratifier toutes les mesures et les recommandations prises au rapport, aux résolutions et au règlement de la réunion ordinaire du Conseil du 24 août 2023 après les 3 lectures. Proposeur appuyeur, M. Leroux, appuyé de M. Laviolette, lui en première lecture, tous en faveur. Deuxième lecture, tous en faveur. Troisième lecture, tous en faveur. Adopté. Annonce, item numéro 13. Aucune. Je sais qu'au mois de septembre, la foire agricole, pas agricole, la foire à Bentekil pour la nourriture, le food... shit, là, je ne me rappelle pas du nom, là, je l'ai perdu. Mais oui, vous êtes tous invités. C'est ça, saveur. Le flaveur de saveur, c'est ça? Festival des saveurs, c'est en plein ça. Fait que vous êtes tous invités, c'est sur la main, il y a plein de gens, c'est bon à manger. Monsieur Lefebvre?
Oui, merci. Et nous, à Villa Hawkesbury, on a le club de tour. Et alors, les voies d'électricité le 2 et le 3 septembre, je ne me trompe pas, le samedi soir et le dimanche. Ça fait, je ne me trompe pas, le 25e anniversaire de cette activité-là. Alors, bien entendu, vous êtes bienvenus. Et le Club Auto, ils ont fait un partenariat quelques années passées avec la Banque centrale, la Banque alimentaire centrale de la ville de Hawkesbury. Alors, si vous pouvez venir les encourager, ce serait bien apprécié. On invite tout le monde à s'y rendre. Merci.
Puis le Festival des faveurs, c'est le 10 septembre à Bentekil, juste pour faire certain de ma date. Autre annonce? Any other announcements? Seeing none, ajournement? Proposeur appuyeur pour fermer notre réunion ordinaire. Proposé par M. Lefebvre, appuyé de M. Zent. All in favor? Tous en faveur? Contre? Adopté. Merci beaucoup. Bonne journée tout le monde. Bon retour, puis fait plaisir de tous vous revoir. Bonne journée.